I said before, it is easy for bullies like Sheriff Arpaio to pick on people who have no power. If I'm elected president, the President of the United States does have the power. Watch out, Joe.
Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders in Phoenix last night warning Sheriff Joe Arpaio, it's Arpaio Bernie, telling Sheriff Joe to watch out if Bernie becomes president. And this is just because Sheriff Joe enforces immigration law. For more on this, let's bring in our panel. From Newsmax Washington, my old congressional colleague, Michael Patrick Flanagan, now the president of Flanagan Consulting. And joining me on the anchor desk, another dear old friend of mine, the former chief of staff to Congressman Walter B. Jones of North Carolina, Glenn Downs. So, Mike Flanagan, first to you. Bernie Sanders saying Joe Arpaio is a bully for enforcing immigration law.
It's hysterical. I guess Sanders believes, like most Democrats, that when you're elected president, you get to be king. So you get to go down there and tell local sheriffs, locally elected at local level, to do what they're supposed to do because I'm the president. All Arpaio's doing is enforcing federal law as it's written. Bernie, of course, doesn't like the federal law and believes that as a king, he can override whatever Congress wants to do, like the current president does. It's appalling. It's a sick understanding of the separation of powers, and it's a sick understanding of his office. But it's typical liberal stuff.
Glenn, your reaction to Bernie last night?
Well, listen, this is obviously Orwellian kinds of language. There's a great erosion of the power of the rule of law in this country, and now we've reached the point where there's somebody who talks about enforcing the law is going to have this made-up edict come from Washington to undermine their authority. It's very disturbing, and I've reminded a lot of my liberal friends that the day will come when they have someone in that Oval Office that's not of their liking, and they will cry out for the rule of law, but after having endorsed all these precedents from Mr. Obama and now Mr. Sanders, they'll not have much of an intellectual or moral underpinning behind their arguments.
You can't even call them liberal, they're leftists. Correct. Liberal means you actually embrace freedom. More on those Democrats. You know, Chelsea Clinton, as she's grown up, she's gotten out on the campaign trail, and she was asked about her mom's stance on Obamacare for illegals. Listen and look at what she had to say.
She does not believe, though, that while working towards comprehensive immigration reform, we should make people wait, like the families that you're talking about, which is why she thinks it's so important to extend the Affordable Care Act to people who are living and working here, regardless of immigration status, regardless of citizenship status.
Oh, so there it is, Michael Patrick Flanagan, Obamacare for illegals.
I don't know why we bother to wait for them to come to the country. Let's just extend Obamacare to the hemisphere so that they have it already when they illegally arrive in the country. That's just the quickest way to do it, and I'm not sure I'd find a lot of resistance on the left to getting that done.
Yeah, well, why stop at the hemisphere, Glenn? I guess it ought to be Obamacare globally. The American taxpayer can pay for everybody.
Well, we're paying for an awful lot of the world in an awful lot of ways, so I guess that would be a logical extension or illogical extension of illogical policy. But no, it's crazy, but we're living in a crazy time.
A very troubling time. And what is interesting is the culture war that surrounds politics. Since it is Friday, I guess we're talking entertainment. Under the guise of entertainment, a new documentary Jen Zinko put together highlighting what she believes to be the perverse political content of so-called right-wing talk radio. Take a look at a portion of her documentary about her own dad.
Till that period of my life, I never paid attention to politics. That's when I started reading the newspapers, listening to the radio, and that's how I became a Republican.
And you know, they had the Newsmax logo in there, so maybe we should wear this as a badge of honor. But Michael Patrick Flanagan, to hear the left say that we're brainwashing people for listening to talk radio, my goodness, 30 seconds for your response, and we'll let Glenn have the last word.
I'll give Glenn even more time. You want to compare talk radio to every single university in this country? Give me a break. We are indoctrinating our children at a frightening rate into not even Americanism, but into crazy leftist policies, and that's where your indoctrination is.
20 seconds to you, Glenn.
Well, obviously, the left is going to push and push and push, and there's really no point at which they're going to be satisfied. So at some point, the right, and the congressional Republicans in particular, are going to have to learn to make a stand and push back, or you're going to have more and more of this sort of thing.
Which is why there is Newsmax TV, because after all, we're not the media, we're Newsmax. And we are very grateful. Michael Patrick Flanagan in Washington, Glenn Downs here on the anchor desk, we thank you very much. Now, what did you think of what they had to say? Send me your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Back with more after this.